Right now at noon, torrential rain and heat impacts millions of Americans. More on Mother Nature's powerful 1-2 punch.
And we're getting another one of those punches from Mother Nature. Severe thunderstorms rolling through the area. We'll take a look at your full forecast coming up.
The state's most watched news starts now.
Severe weather moves into the 4 states. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach, topping our first 7 minutes after a weekend of cleanup. After Friday night storms, more storms are moving into the area. Let's go straight to Chris Warner with a first look at the forecast.
Yeah, earlier we had a severe thunderstorm watch issued for portions of southeast Kansas, all of northeast Oklahoma. That runs until 5 o'clock tonight. And as you can see, we've got a number of severe thunderstorm warnings associated with this big cell that just really took off about, say, an hour or so ago. And we're seeing some redevelopment back behind it. None of that strong or severe at this point, but this cell in Montgomery County is now strong with wind gusts around, let's see here, about 50 miles an hour or so. And we've got severe thunderstorm warnings for southern Chautauqua County and now getting into Washington County and western Newada County. And these severe thunderstorm warnings run until 12:30. And this is for 70-mile-an-hour winds and potentially up to 2-inch hail. And then just immediately outside of our area, take a look at the purple colors on that cell. That is baseball-size hail and 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts being reported out there. We have had some damage reports around the Howard area from these storms as they rolled through. This storm again continuing to sink off initially to the south and now off to the south and to the east. So we're going to continue to monitor that, and we'll continue to watch for any redevelopment that takes place. As such, our friends at the Storm Prediction Center have made some changes to our severe weather risk. They have added a low-end tornado risk for the counties highlighted in brown. They've also added an elevated hail risk and wind risk across the area, and these hatch mark areas indicate where we could see potentially significant hail, 2 inches in diameter or greater across the area. So we're already warm and muggy. We started out yesterday at 69, made it up to 95, so above where we should be. And other than where the rain has been falling out in the west, temperatures out ahead of all of this, very warm. 87 Fort Scott, Nevada, Pittsburgh, 89 in Joplin, 86 in Neosho. So, of course, we're keeping an eye on these thunderstorms this afternoon now. It's now this afternoon. The heat will also return this week. We have to contend with that, and we've got additional scattered storm chances later this week as well. We're going to continue to track these thunderstorms as they roll through southeast Kansas, and we'll have the latest as they move on through and more on your forecast here in a few more minutes. Tanya?
All right, thanks, Chris. High temps and wicked weather is hitting many parts of the country, not just here. Some 83 million Americans are under excessive heat warnings today as record heat bears down in Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Phoenix is expected to tie its old record for consecutive 110-plus degree days. Forecasters expect 20 records in 6 states. And smoke from Canadian wildfires is also triggering air quality alerts in several cities again. The eastern part of the country is starting to dry out after unrelenting rain and deadly flash flooding over the weekend. And we're not alone in the heat. Scorching weather is gripping 2 more continents with predictions of historic temperatures taking over parts of Asia and Europe. CBS's Ian Lee reports.
Hot weather is hammering much of Europe.
We love it because in Australia, where we're from, it's winter. So this is beautiful, it's bellissimo.
But the high heat is pushing the mercury into near record temperatures. Parts of Italy are expected to hit 118 degrees. But the heat wave didn't stop thousands from gathering in the sweltering St. Peter's Square on Sunday to see the Pope.
Because of the joy of seeing the Pope, that overrides the difficulty of the heat.
In Greece, Athens' famous Acropolis shut its gates when temperatures topped 104 degrees.
The heat, it's hard, but we're going to push through it.
The heat is sparking wildfires too, with thousands evacuated on the Spanish island of La Palma as firefighters struggle to contain the flames. The scorching weather is also engulfing Asia, with Japanese officials placing tens of millions under a heat advisory. The country might break its record high of 106 this week. Torrid temperatures are keeping this Texas couple indoors.
With it being as hot as it is, I feel like we have to be really mindful of that and staying inside as much as we can.
And in neighboring China, tourists traveled to the Flaming Mountains, and the hottest place in the country lived up to its name, with a staggering surface temperature of 176 degrees. Ian Lee, CBS News.
One city in Iran had a heat index of 152 degrees, which is well above the threshold considered safe for people and animals. Another dangerous train derailment, this time in Pennsylvania. Emergency crews are on the scene in White Marsh Township outside of Philadelphia after a 40-car freight train owned and operated by Norfolk Southern derailed this morning. At least 10 of the cars are believed to be off the tracks. Authorities are evacuating businesses and homes as a precaution since the train is reportedly carrying hazardous materials. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at Noon, heads up Joplin drivers, your morning commute could be changing as soon as next week. And later we're making firecracker barbecued pork in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. Police in Galena, Kansas arrest a man who they say cut wire from telephone poles. Authorities say they received tips from residents and found the suspect vehicle near 21st and State Line Road. When officers pulled the vehicle over, they found wire and cutting tools inside, as well as drugs and drug paraphernalia. They also arrested the driver, 28-year-old Dakota Beck. He's being held on charges of theft from a utility company and criminal damage of property. Well, finally, some light at the end of the tunnel, or road rather. The city of Joplin says a new section of West 32nd from Crane Drive west to the vicinity of Woodland Avenue will soon open. This section in the Cedar Ridge neighborhood is scheduled to open to local traffic on July 24th. The project began more than 2 years ago, initially closing West 32nd from Schifferdecker to Iron Gates Road. The hope is the entire project will be complete by the end of the year. And there is 6 months to the Iowa caucuses, and the new fundraising totals are giving a glimpse inside the presidential campaigns. Former President Trump has a massive lead, while the other candidates are all trying to stand out as his main challenger. CBS's Natalie Brand has details from Washington.
New fundraising numbers reflect what many polls say. Former President Donald Trump still leads among the crowded field of GOP presidential hopefuls.
The great silent majority is rising like never before.
Trump raised $35 million from April to June, followed by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis with around $20 million.
We're coming all the way over here.
But the DeSantis campaign has already burned through 40% of what's been raised and laid off about 10 staffers last week. The Florida governor is trying to sell himself as the Trump alternative.
We're not getting a mulligan on 2024.
So are many others in the crowded field, even as the polls show them struggling to break through.
What is your path to victory?
Through Donald Trump. There's no other way to do it, George.
With a big lead in polling and money, Trump isn't giving his opponents a chance to take him on directly, skipping a forum in Iowa last week, and he still hasn't committed to being at the first GOP debate next month.
When you have a big lead, you don't do it.
Candidates need at least 40,000 individual donors to qualify. Already 6 of them say they have. Former Vice President Mike Pence is not one of them so far.
Well, I just announced a month ago. Give me some time.
Meanwhile, President Biden and the DNC reported a $72 million haul in the second quarter, giving them a comfy lead against the GOP. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Still to come on the KOAM News at Noon, Mr. Food.
If you're craving a roast that's packed with flavor, is super juicy, and tastes just as good the next day as the day you made it, look no.
We've got severe thunderstorms rolling through the area and 100-degree temperatures returning. We're going to take a look at all of that when we come back. Welcome back to the KOAM News at Noon. So we do have severe weather ongoing across the area this afternoon, and we could potentially see redevelopment of strong to severe thunderstorms as we head further into the afternoon. So let's take a look. We've got a messy look here. We've got severe thunderstorm watches for the counties in orange in southeast Kansas and then all of northeastern Oklahoma, and this runs until 5 o'clock. And then those yellow boxes, we've got severe thunderstorm warnings for parts of southern Chautauqua County, Washington County, and western Nowata counties out there. So let's take a look at the Skywatch Storm Tracker. Tons of lightning here, and this cell just outside of our immediate viewing area, baseball size hail with this sucker. And as you can see, look back behind this. We're starting to see redevelopment of these thunderstorms, and our friends at the Storm Prediction Center have increased our severe weather chances. We're going to go over all of that as we get through this weathercast. So let's first take a look. We still have these severe thunderstorm warnings for, again, Washington, western Nowata, southern Chautauqua until 12:30. This is for 70-mile-an-hour winds and 1-inch size hail, at least on the sides that are impacting the counties in our viewing area. This storm in Montgomery County is not warned at this time, but does have some hail with it and some gusty winds. And honestly, looking at the latest radar scans, I wouldn't be too terribly surprised if we see a severe thunderstorm warning pop up for that storm as it continues to move off. So here's a look at the redevelopment just off to the northwest of Yates Center. We've got this cell just to the northeast of El Dorado, and we're going back through Elk County and into Butler County, and we've got additional thunderstorms out there, and I apologize to the folks in Eureka. I know that that is not Butler County. All right, let's take a look back at these thunderstorms as they rolled through. This little guy started way off here by Salina, and it was actually a dying storm, and then it just entered an area down here that the atmosphere was primed for thunderstorm development, and as you can see, it just took off and is continuing to accelerate down now to the south at about 50 miles an hour, and that's again why we got this severe thunderstorm watch, why we have those severe thunderstorm warnings, and now why the Storm Prediction Center has increased our severe weather threat today. So I know I told you this morning, I did knock on wood. I said we weren't looking at anything serious. Unfortunately, because of that cell, that's why our risk has gone up. Not because that one cell is going to suddenly turn east and just blow across the area, because we're expecting outflow from that cell. And because the atmosphere across our region is primed for thunderstorms, the outflow that will come off of that cell and push off to the east could generate additional strong to severe thunderstorms through the afternoon. So they have added a low-end tornado risk for the areas highlighted in brown. We have an elevated hail risk across just about the entire area, and same with the wind. But as we've talked with those hatch marks, that indicates the potential for hail 2 inches in diameter or potentially larger with thunderstorms that we see. So let's take a look at the future track and see what we're looking at. So we're looking at the possibility again of redevelopment of showers and thunderstorms. Some of these could be strong to severe as we go over the next 2 or 3 hours through the evening. These thunderstorms will continue to shift off to the southeast. Here we are at 6. We could see more scattered thunderstorms out there. And then we could see, unrelated to the outflow, other thunderstorms that we talked about this morning that could be scattered as we head late into the evening and into the early overnight hours before this all eventually kicks out of here. So our rain chances really start to ramp up with the potential outflow off this cell, and then we'll see them kind of dwaddle off as we head into tomorrow morning. MoDOT camera 20 of the range line showing those dark clouds off to the north and west, and from our camera here at the KOAM studios, you can kind of see where that thunderstorm cell is out there. And from our camera at 7th and range line, look at that. That's the cloud cover from that one cell all the way to the west. 89 in Joplin, feels like 94, dew point 70, humidity is 53%. This is what we're talking about in terms of the energy that is here in the atmosphere. 86 in Pittsburgh, feeling like 91. Look at that dew point 71. And a humidity of 60%. And a quick look at temperatures around the area. 87 Nevada, Fort Scott, 81 Iola, 87 Pittsburgh, as we mentioned, 84 Miami, 86 Neosho. Where it's been raining, where it's been cloudy, it's a little cooler. But the rest of us heating up in this atmosphere, ready for some thunderstorms. So we're looking at hot temperatures today, pushing the mid-90s, triple digits after we get through these storms heading into Tuesday and Wednesday. So even hotter out there. We got some heat advisories that'll kick in tomorrow as well. And then we'll get more thunderstorm chances by Thursday and Friday, and that'll help bring our temperatures back down into the upper 80s and lower 90s. But again, right now, our biggest focus are these thunderstorms out to the west, and then what they could potentially fuel for development a little later this afternoon, the next 2 or 3 hours. So myself and, of course, Doug Heddy, Sam Lane, we'll all keep an eye on this for you as we go through the day.
So we see where they're at right now. How quickly do you think they'll get to like here at the station? These
cells right now are actually moving almost due south. So these should miss us here at the station. We're getting the cloud cover from that, but they're moving almost due south at about 50 miles an hour. But it's going to be the redevelopment behind these that could give us some trouble a little later.
And we'll keep an eye on that.
We certainly will.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Well, stick around. We're making firecracker barbecued pork after the break. Well, sparks are sure to fly at your dinner table when you serve up today's recipe. Howard calls it an explosion of flavor in your mouth as he shows us how to make his zesty tasting firecracker barbecued pork in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
When a recipe is really good and flavorful, we often try to find fun and creative ways to describe it. And when we tasted the pork roast that we're sharing with you today, the first word that came to mind was firecracker, since the flavors just exploded when we tasted it. Let me show you how to make it so you can have it for dinner tonight. The first thing we do is cut a crisscross pattern on the top of a boneless pork roast. Cutting this pattern will help our glaze stick to the pork while ensuring that there's lots of flavor in every bite. Now, we season it with some salt and pepper and place it in a roasting pan. To make it extra special, we glaze it with a mixture of barbecue sauce, orange marmalade, a bit of hot pepper sauce, and a little horseradish. Then we'll spoon half of this over the roast and into the oven it goes. Then after a bit, we'll spoon on the rest of the glaze and cook it until it reaches 160 degrees. After it rests for a few minutes, cut it across the grain and serve it with the pan drippings. It's full of flavor, but not too spicy. One forkful, and you'll know exactly why we were so excited about this. To get the recipe for our firecracker barbecue pork, simply head over to our website. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found an explosive way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
Might have to try that one myself. Here's a look at our 4-state market prices. Powerball jackpot is now estimated to be worth $900 million. No one has matched all 6 numbers since April, and that makes tonight's drawing the 3rd biggest Powerball jackpot ever and the 7th largest in U.S. history. I'm going to win.
We've got those severe thunderstorm warnings continuing for southern Chautauqua, Washington, and western Nevada County. So these will expire at 12:30, but I could see additional thunderstorm warnings as we head in northeast Oklahoma. More thunderstorms expected through the afternoon and into the evening hours. Some of those could be strong to severe, or otherwise hot, pushing low to mid-90s, triple digits Tuesday and Wednesday. More thunderstorm chances as we go into Thursday and Friday. We do cool back, at least briefly, back into the upper 80s and lower 90s. So, of course, myself, Doug Heddy, and Sam Lane will be continuing to track these thunderstorms and any of the redevelopment that may take place over the next 3 or 4 hours across the area as well. We do have that severe thunderstorm watch for parts of southeast Kansas, northeast Oklahoma until 5 o'clock this evening.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that for sure. Coming up tonight at 5, it's been 1 year since the rollout of the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, and Health Watch look back at how the service has helped millions who are struggling with their mental health. Plus, a new food truck park opens in Joplin. We find out more on the location and the hours. And a healthcare themed summer camp begins in Pittsburgh this week. Thanks for joining us for those stories tonight on the KOAM News at 5.
And thanks for joining us today at noon.
We'll be back with the rest of the team here at 5 o'clock.